Kia ora. ANZAC Day each year is the day when we remember those who have made huge sacrifices to defend our nation, to defend the freedoms that we sometimes take very much for granted. And it's important that we do remember because it's so easy to forget. In the day-by-day busyness of everyday life, we can often forget the huge sacrifices that were made by earlier generations to defend our nation, by people of my parents' generation or my grandparents' generation, who lost loved members of their families, who had members of the family experience war wounds that affected them throughout their lives, who spent time in prisoner of war camps, who experienced food rationing, and who experienced day in, day out, for months and for years, that anxiety of wondering, will life ever return to normal again? So over ANZAC weekend, we remember what earlier generations experienced, and that can help to put into a wider perspective the inconveniences that we're experiencing at present with the COVID-19 pandemic. We're all very conscious of the restrictions that are being placed upon us and the inconveniences we're experiencing. But in some ways, like earlier generations, we're accepting these sacrifices so that our country and our world can be free of this pandemic. And like them, we're probably wondering, will life ever return to normal again? But ANZAC weekend, this time, reminds us that the experience of our forebears has been that over time, the human spirit does find ways to re-establish the patterns of everyday life. So remembering the past can certainly be a source of hope for us in our present struggles. On Tuesday of this week, you'll know that our nation is moving from level 4 to level 3 in our response to the pandemic. More people will be returning to work, but the Prime Minister has emphasised that two of the key features of level 3 are the same as at level 4, stay home and stay local. So level 3 looks very much like level 4. What that means for us is that for the next 2 weeks, our churches will remain closed. There has been a slight exception for funerals and for weddings where we can have up to 10 people present for such a ceremony with adequate spacing between people. But that's very much the exception. My own hope is that if we can try to be faithful to what is being asked of us through level 3, then sooner rather than later we will be able to reopen our churches and begin to dream of a little more normality in our lives going forward. On this Sunday, the third Sunday of Easter, we listened to what I often call St. Luke's masterpiece, the encounter between Jesus and two of his disciples on the road to Emmaus on that first Easter Sunday. You're very familiar with the story. They were so devastated by what had happened a few days earlier on Good Friday with the crucifixion of the Lord that they felt their world had collapsed. You remember them saying to the stranger on the road, our own hopes had been that he would be the one who would set Israel free. Now it's all gone. It's all over. They were so devastated by their own shattered dreams that they actually failed to recognize the one who was walking alongside them, until, of course, they recognized him in that great scene. St. Luke puts it very simply, they recognized him in the breaking of bread and went rushing back to Jerusalem to make sure the others knew that the Lord had risen. Perhaps there are similarities for us between the situation of Cleopas and his companion and what we're experiencing in 2020. I think for every one of us, some of our dreams for 2020 have been well and truly shattered. All sorts of gatherings and events and plans have had to be cancelled. And is it possible that we too are so obsessed with what's gone wrong and so concerned about the future for ourselves and our family and our country and our world that we fail to actually hear the voice of the Master walking alongside us during these days? In the scriptures, the great prayer of the disciple is, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Let's try to make that prayer our prayer, especially during these very challenging days. Let's try to be aware of the presence of the one walking alongside us and offering us the hope that is the core message of Easter. May God bless you all.